The House of Keys is debating proposed legislation this week designed to protect the rights of tenants. The Landlords Bill is due to get its second reading, and I'm with Chris Thomas, Douglas MHK. Now, if this bill gets its second reading, you would like to see it sent to a committee. Can you explain why, please?
There's two stages in the legislative process that we'll go through tomorrow. The first one is the second reading, and it's actually, remember, it's the Landlord and Tenants Bill, and I will be voting for that because it's important to look after landlords and it's important to look after tenants. There are tenants who are living in accommodation in the private sector, in the public sector, in the countryside that are below standard. That's important, I accept that. I'll be voting for the second reading. The second stage, if the reading is passed by the House of Keys, I will be moving that it goes to a committee. And the reason it needs to go to a committee is this is the sort of legislation, even regardless of anything else, that should go to a committee because it's so complicated. It interacts with the housing acts, with the public health acts, with all sorts of acts, and I'm pretty certain that it could be drafted, the drafting needs to be very careful, and for that reason alone it needs to go to a committee.
Do you think it's being rushed through then, that it hasn't been considered properly?
You can't say it's been rushed through because it's been around for a couple of years, but for whatever reason we're where we are now, and I still think it needs to go to a committee. We've got the proposal from the department that's been signed off by the Council of Ministers. Even today I'm getting letters from constituents on both sides, tenants and landlords, who say this needs to be looked at for various reasons. If you're in that situation, you need to actually do your job properly as a politician making legislation, go to a committee. We don't take legislation enough to committees in the Isle of Man in recent years. The last time we had a landlord and tenant bill in 1988, it went to a committee. The estate agents bill in 1998 went to a committee. This one should too. That will give us a chance for the Landlord Association, who I imagine have probably been in touch with you, to put their point of view, for tenants and tenants associations to come forward and give representation. And most importantly, from my point of view, it'll give me or my colleagues, and I hope I'm a member of the committee if it's passed, to actually have a chance to ask the legislative drafter what they were intending to do, how it goes about linking with existing legislation, how it impacts on the tenancy agreements that are already in place, and all those important questions that needs to be answered at this stage.
You say you've had representations from your constituents, landlords and tenants. What are their main concerns?
I can get you a letter out and read it now, a very, very short one, just from one lady, and it just says, I wish to complain about the Landlord and Tenants Private Housing Bill. It criminalises landlord, threatens them with prison, 20,000 fines. It allows tenants to claim rent back as a debt, and it appears to override the lease agreement. What's the point of having law? Now, that's one point of view. I've got equally simple letters from tenants over the last couple of years. I accept we need to improve the standard of accommodation, but it is improving, and we've got to acknowledge why it's improved, and a bad piece of legislation could take away lots of the improvements that are already ongoing, as well as addressing issues that need to be addressed. There is legislation in process. This is a question of enforcement of existing legislation. Mr. Robert Shaw keeps saying it's not bureaucratic. It seems to me that we're creating a new body and a new department to be involved in something where we should be working with the council, with the Office of Fair Trading, with the environmental protection officers, and with all those bodies have already got a role to make their jobs easier, and to give them the resources rather than creating a new body and a new legislation and from de novo, from scratch.